Hey, welcome to Sober City. My name is Seth, and still an alcoholic. I'm absolutely pumped for you to meet my friend Kerry. She's amazing. Kerry's story is super relatable to me as she describes the feeling of getting caught lying, the reality that the gig is up and no one is buying it anymore. For a while, Kerry could light up a room. She was the life of the party, the fun mom, the career woman with big city dreams, until alcoholism turned her spark into a slow burn, dealing with rejection, imposter syndrome, and the reality that life is getting out of control. I always tell people, don't wait until it's bad enough, because when it's bad enough, it's worse than you can imagine. Believe me. Kerry and I talk about the lies we tell to keep our addiction going, try to maintain some level of comfort in getting through the day. Went from decorating imaginary Manhattan apartments to ultimately finding a happy home in Rapid City, South Dakota. And now she wakes up excited to just be awake. If you're listening, worried about the opinions of others, well, I can tell you the people that matter don't judge, and the people who judge don't matter. Kerry's a great example that you don't need to drink to bring the party. You can have an amazing personality without alcohol being a part of it, and getting sober doesn't dull your flame, it makes it brighter. As always, if you need help, my info's in the show notes. And I just want to remind you, you are not alone. Well, let's get to it. Life is beautiful. Sobriety is worth it. Thank God for today. This is Sober City. Kerry, welcome to Sober City.
Hi. Thank
Hey.
you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here, Kerry. How long have you been sober?
I have been sober. My sobriety date is August 31st of 2021. So I'm coming up on 4 years. It's been over 3.5.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It has been awesome. Honestly, best 3.5 plus years of my life. Honestly, absolutely glorious. And I don't have any way to explain that other than the program and the fact that alcohol is no longer a part of my everyday.
Right.
That's the one common denominator that changed.
Sure. Right. And learning how to live life on
Yeah.
life's terms.
Besides my whole person as well. Yeah.
I get you. Well, that's pretty cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And so, what were you like before you got sober?
Let's just say I was probably what people would consider a normal product of my generation type drinker for the majority of my drinking days. And don't get me wrong, I know now that it was never a good idea for alcohol to be a part of my life, but I was a weekend partier, dinner parties from work or drinking at a bar with colleagues. I look back on that now and I realize I probably always took it too far. I definitely partied like a rock star. Child of the 70s. We knew how to tie one on. And I had a lot of fun with that. And one thing that I know now should have been a huge red flag in my story is that I do remember the very first time I ever drank alcohol. I was 14 years old and I was at a party of a fellow 8th grader at their house. And we had a bottle of Everclear and some grape soda. And so we mixed that together and all of us got pretty crazy. But what about that should have been the huge red flag is that I remember every single thing about that night. I don't remember a lot of other days when I was in the 8th grade, but I remember that night. And I remember what people were wearing. I remember what I was wearing. I remember the house. I remember the music we were listening to. I remember who was there. I mean, that in itself tells me that alcohol made an imprint on my life that night. And I wasn't one of those that alcohol made me feel like I fit in or anything. I kind of always did in that regard, but it just took what was already, I think, a fun childhood existence and made it the most fun. So I immediately made the correlation between alcohol makes everything more fun. Does that become an alcoholic? Because I know that I had the spiritual malady. And that's probably why alcohol made things so much fun for me, is I was always looking for that next best thing, the best thing. And alcohol was like the most fun for me. So that connection was made. But it wasn't until I went to college, grad school, got married, and then it wasn't until my husband left after 15 years. He left me for an old high school friend. And I, number one, did not see that coming. It had never dawned on me in 15 years that my husband might leave me. That's the honest truth. I never thought that would happen, which is crazy. And so because of that, I was not emotionally or spiritually prepared for that. And Corey, my ex-husband, was maybe one of the things in my life that I had found that I was pretty happy with. In 15 years, I hadn't gone looking for somebody better. And that had kind of always been the case. So I think I had way too many happy eggs in his basket. So when he left, so did a lot of joy, so did a lot of future plans. Wow, I was not prepared. And my relationship with alcohol changed at that point. I went from being somebody who parties too hard and drinks too much alcohol for the sake of having fun to somebody who locked the doors and shut the shades and isolated and drank more and more often, and just about killed myself in 7 years of drinking like that. I ended up almost dead in the end, in the hospital, so anemic, potassium levels below the lethal amount. My landlord actually found me on the kitchen floor. Yeah.
Jeez, yeah.
Yeah. Pretty crazy. And, you would think that that would have been rock bottom.
Yeah.
Wasn't. Drink again after that. And really, what was my rock bottom? And I'm very emphatic about this when I talk with girls, maybe in the jail or my sponsees. My rock bottom really was a choice. It was when I made the choice that I either am or I'm not, and at the urging of my sponsor, you know, um, one day or day one, you choose.
Right.
And I chose day one that day. And I had, I guess what I tell everyone is a spiritual experience of sorts. Three things happened in succession one night. And, without telling the whole story, it was just, I had lied to my parents and they called me on it. And my mom said, "You have shattered my heart," which to me was like moving the earth. I mean, it told me, what have I done? Because I know how much my parents love me. And for them to say, "We don't believe you and we don't want to talk to you for a while," told me I have done something catastrophic here, because I know how hard that was for them. Then I lied to my ex, and my daughter saw me. And for the first time in her eyes, I saw that she knew that I was lying. And then I called who was my sponsor at the time, and I told her everything that was going on, but I'd been drinking, and she always knew. And she said, "You know what, Kerry, I don't know if I can help you anymore," and hung up.
Yeah. Well,
I was in Boston. She was out here. And that was enough. I mean, those three chips just went dink, 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 and fell into place. And I thought, I'm in trouble. And I thought, honestly, if I don't make a change, if I don't do something different, I am going to die. Because without the love of my parents, the trust of my daughter, and the help of my sponsor, I'm in dire straits. What am I going to do? I depended on those three things. And so I got on my knees, and for the first time in years, I actually was not crying tears of poor me.
yeah.
I was crying tears of like actual hope. And the only way I can explain that is that my higher power reached down and said, "Girl, get up, wash your face. You can do this." And so I called my sponsor back and said, "I don't even know how to explain this, but something's different. And I know you won't believe me." And she said, "No, I do. I'll be there tomorrow. And
Yep.
she got on a plane, flew to Boston, threw me in a car. We drove 1,800 miles back to South Dakota. We came into town on the 5th of September, 2021. And it took us, 3-4 days to drive here. So yeah, my sobriety date's August 31st. I've been sober since we drove into town. And it's been an unbelievable journey. Just redeeming and educational and empowering. Full of grace and beauty and gratitude. I can't even explain it in enough words. But I know now that God fully equipped me for this. If you would have asked me 10 years ago, do you think you'll be an alcoholic? I would have said, you're out of your mind. I got plans. I would have said, I was going to move to Manhattan and work in Midtown and had my apartment all decorated in my mind and all that. I was going to change the world, right?
Not Rapid City.
No,
South Dakota.
wasn't part of the plan.
Right.
But here's the crazy thing. Sometimes dreams come true that you didn't even know that you had. And that's been my story because, Seth, I am changing the world. I am. One girl at a time in my little basement apartment in Rapid City, South Dakota. And I think it is more fulfilling, and I'm making more of a difference than I ever would have in Midtown Manhattan. So I'm okay with it. And I feel like if you trust in the higher power that you've given your will over to, then you have to trust that his plan was good all along, right?
Absolutely.
Because if I still go back and regret everything and am mad about certain things, well, what does that really say about me turning over my will? So I do believe, and in doing that and really surrendering to that as well, I realized that all that pain I went through doesn't have to be a sad story. It's my choice what I do with it now. And I can use it all to help the next suffering woman.
That's right. Yeah. Otherwise, all the pain and misery we went through is in vain.
Right?
Yeah. Well, why not utilize it to make it a strength or an asset?
Absolutely.
It's positive. Well, wow. Do you mind elaborating or telling me what it was that you had been dishonest about with your parents and
Sure.
ex-husband?
Absolutely. So what I had been dishonest about with my parents, as I told you, I came out of the hospital that time when I was so sick. So of course they were worried, so worried. And my daughter and I flew out to Grand Junction where their summer home is in Colorado. And we were there a couple of weeks. And the entire time I was there, I was drinking and telling them that I wasn't.
Okay, sure.
Well, I wasn't a very good hider of my lies because I ended up putting all the little bottles and stuff in a bag, all wrapped up, all secure, I thought, in their trash can. So after I left, they found them, of course, because my mother and I are so close and she has absolute amazing intuition. And she thought, she wasn't quite acting right. I think I'll go check. So they found them and they knew that I was not being honest. And, truthfully, I looked them right in the eye and lied.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents have been nothing but supportive and loving. My story is I come from an amazing childhood with an incredible family and parents that I've been able to watch my entire life who are examples of how to live as not just upstanding citizens, but, people who put one another first in marriage and lovers of their own faith and the foundation that they built in our family. And it's incredible. It's been such an amazing gift in my life. And yet I took all that for granted for the sake of alcohol. Blows my mind now, blows my mind. So when they called me to tell me all that, it was right after I'd gotten home. And yeah, they didn't want to talk to me. And we did not, I honored that. And we did not speak to each other for about probably 6 months or so. And it was very shortly after that obviously that Donna came. And then I was here getting sober for that time. But what a great lesson for me to learn to respect the boundary they set because they needed to practice the self-care that they needed, which was a big break from me. That night, as I mentioned, I was drinking and my ex-husband had called for something because I had Marin, my daughter, that night. And he just heard it in my voice. He and I have somewhat of a difficult relationship. And So that night he was on me about something, I think, and I just kind of shot back at him as we tend to do when we're drinking. And he said, "It sounds to me like you've been drinking." And I just said, "Well, there you go again." And always blaming me, pointing the finger. Meanwhile, I've got like a nip in my hand or something and totally lied to him. And then my daughter, I turned around and my daughter was standing there full well knowing she was old enough at this point to know better. I didn't drink in front of her. So if I did have something in my hand, I was definitely hiding it in the couch cushions or something. But she was old enough to know just by knowing her mom, knowing the way that I respond to things and my level of anger, frustration, how quickly I let it out. And the look in her eyes told me that she knew. And that was tough. Wow. I realized then that the gig was up with her too.
So then it was that evening then that you kind of hit your knees and essentially received the gift of desperation, right?
Correct.
That's when you stopped digging.
It is when I stopped digging and started crawling out of the mire, honestly. Um, and that is what I did for the next 6 months or so. Here's a cute story on the way across the country with my sponsor, because that's a humbling experience, driving 1,800 miles in a closed vehicle with your sponsor who knows the level of destruction that started the dumpster fires in my wake. And we stopped at a gas station to get snacks and get gas, and we were going to switch and I was going to drive. And she now jokes about the fact that I take forever in a gas station, apparently. I just mill around and shop and I take my time going to the restroom and whatnot. So she comes in and then she goes out in front of me and I walk out and she's got this look on her face and like she was upset with me. And I'm like, "Hey, you ready to go?" And she's like, "Uh-huh." And I'm like, "What's wrong?" And she goes, "Were you drinking?" And I said, "What?" And she's like, "Were you drinking, Kerry?" And I was like, "No." And I'm like, "Why?" And she goes, "Well, there are nips at the counter." And I was like, and I looked at her, I'm like, "No, I wasn't." And I still actually had like a breathalyzer with me. And so I was like, "I'm going to get the breathalyzer." And she's like, "No, I mean, if you're telling me the truth," I'm like, "Nope, I want to."
Right.
So I got it out and I blew in it and it was 000. And she just laughed at me because she could tell I was so proud. I'm like, what I was proud about is I didn't even see him. I didn't even notice that there was alcohol at the counter. And she told me later she had gone into the bathroom and like looked through the little girly trash cans that are in the stalls and stuff just to see if I had taken some in there. And she's like, "I was really proud of you because that was less than 24 hours after my last drink, really." And that was a gift. That was a gift of a spiritual experience that I was ready. I was on the way to my new life and I didn't know that I was going to stay here. The plan was I was going to come out here and be with her for like, we were going to gauge it on like a month to month basis type thing. But then I went to an event with her, like one of the first nights and through a connection I made there, a job fell into my lap and, a good job. And it was just, I think it was all God. It was my higher power. And it was really meant to be that I stick around for a while. And so, and plus, I loved Rapid City and I loved the community here, the recovery community. And it was it allowed me to truly engage. Whereas I can't blame not engaging on Boston, let's say, per se, because I'm the one who didn't engage. But the meetings out there are a little different. The overall culture is different. But for me, because of my circumstances and whatnot, there was a lot of toxicity there. And until I got away from that and got my head out of that toxic environment, it was hard for me to really see where I had the levels to which I had gone and see a way out, maybe. And so coming here allowed me to do that. And when the job happened and I found a church community right away, and then I loved the recovery community, I actually ended up talking to my daughter, who at the time was 12 years old. And I said to her, I told her what was going on and about the job and how I felt. And I said, "Honey, what do you think if mom stayed for a while?" And this 12-year-old amazing young woman said, "Mom, I would rather have this happy, healthy mom who's thriving 1,800 miles away than the mom who's dying in the next town because she thinks she needs to be near me. And she said, I don't think it's good for you here, Mom. And it's okay. She said, we can FaceTime all the time. And she was right. We do every day. And luckily, the jobs that I've been able to secure here allow me to travel quite a bit. And I'm able to see her 8 times or so a year. Last year, I was able to go back and forth. Either she comes here, I go there. Not too bad. There, my commute was an hour and 45 minutes each way. So I didn't really see her anyway. It's almost like now I see her more. And that's a gift of this program. And that's a gift of the intentions of God, giving your will over to Him, trusting that He will make all things right. You surrender to His will, right?
That's right. Yeah. True sobriety, not just not drinking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Willingness to roll with the punches.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And accept that you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
And if you try to take control, you'll mess it up.
Absolutely.
You'll do a terrible job.
Yeah.
How did, and I think it's probably okay to say Donna, right? Yeah, I actually was texting Donna just a couple nights ago trying to get her on this thing. But you know, as well as I do, she's a big deal and busy.
Yes.
But eventually, yes, I think she said she'd be willing to, which would be amazing.
It would
How
be amazing.
in the world did you connect with her from Boston?
Well, I had gone to sober living up in North Dakota.
Okay.
So it is interesting that I ended up there. But there's a speaker named Earl Hightower, and through a connection in our family, my parents got a hold of him and said, Kerry's basically going to die. We need your help. If you were going to send her somewhere for sober living, where would you send her? He said, if I was going to send her anywhere, I'd send her to Hope Manor in Bismarck, North Dakota. And then I thought, wow, I really have messed up. But he called the director of the program on my behalf and actually said, I've got this girl, she needs to come, but here's the caveat, she won't come without her dog. And so they took me, honest to goodness, I showed up with my dog, my bags, and my blood alcohol content to Bismarck, and they took me anyway. Bless them, because it was really, truly probably there. That was the start of my journey. And even though I had some trouble after, I really grasped the things that I now hold true, the foundation when I started. Anyway, I met Donna there, not in sober living, but she was working there. And I met her, and no kidding, Seth, I tease and I say, if she would have been a guy, I would have fallen in love. When I saw her across the room, I just knew, like, there was something about her. I just knew that she was my sponsor, like, immediately. And we kind of made eye contact, and then she came over and said hello. And I didn't really know much about her at all. And I just said, I just feel like you're the right person to sponsor me. And just even her look, she's a class act. And she doesn't just have her stuff together. She looks like she has her stuff together. And thinking back in my professional career, that was always me. And I had let that go. I had let it all go. And in the end of my drinking, I looked like a homeless person. And so I really wanted to work my way back to that professional persona that, as part of my identity, is very important to me. And she just had this beautiful aura about her in recovery and in so many other areas of her life. And so she did become my sponsor, and we have remained very close since then. But even when I went back to Boston, and she then was offered a very good job down here in Rapid City, moved down here, and I went back to Boston. So we were apart there for some years, but we remained in contact and close. And there's just always been a very special connection there. And to the point that she's actually not my sponsor anymore. We are more like sober sisters, because we got so close that we decided, for the sake of our friendship, which is invaluable to both of us, that we would end the sponsor-sponsee relationship and just support one another in sobriety and friendship. And I have another sponsor who's just amazing.
Sure.
Yeah, now.
No, that's cool. And the reason why I asked how you made that connection was just because even though you weren't sober when you made that connection, and like you said, you continued to drink after.
I did.
But still, even when we're not actively working on improving our story's still developing. But even that little bit of making that little effort to get better
Mm-hmm.
you still were able to progress towards finally getting that solution. So every little step helped. You know what I mean? It's not about just being sober.
100%.
It's about just reaching out or making a phone call. And we always put this emphasis on like, well, they're still drinking. Well,
Right.
Kerry went to that place and she's still drinking.
You're exactly right.
But in reality, you made this incredible connection now that led you here. You know,
Right.
it's like still, even just making an effort, the smallest amount of effort towards sobriety is still going to put you into a position to succeed later.
I was with a sponsee last night and we were talking about, she had said, because this sponsee had been to treatment, came home and had one slip one night after that. And she was saying, Kara, because she's coming up on 3 months and I'm so proud of her. And she said, and I don't discount though that month of treatment either though, because it was a month that I still learned. And I said, absolutely. You know what? I said, when you fall off a horse, you don't got to go back to where you started riding him. You just get back on him where you fell off and keep going, right? You've still gained all that ground. Just keep going. Because all of that is, like I was alluding to earlier with me, it's education, it's spiritual development, it's time that you've earned, it's knowledge of the program, it's all of those things, whatever your program is. And you learn about what works for you and what doesn't, and you can always reemploy that knowledge. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's progress, not perfection.
Absolutely.
Right, Kerry?
Yes.
And I've got a young man who's working on trying to get sober.
Mm-hmm.
And during one relapse, said to him, you know, I'm not your sponsor, or whatever he said.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he just made the assumption that, hey, you're my sponsor, call me back. What kind of sponsor doesn't call? I'm saying, I'm not your sponsor anymore. You know, because he was drinking and had this attitude that, dude, why aren't you calling? I don't talk to you when you're drunk or whatever.
Right.
And man, he got out of detox, right? Came out and then said, hey man, can you please help me still? I said, all right, yeah, let's go. You know, it's like the same.
Yeah.
It's like this idea where though, it's like this entitledness where you're going to lie to me or assume that I'm going to tolerate you rage texting me at midnight, whatever it is. And still though, there's just this love and you can hear it when they're ready or when you're
ready.
okay. And also it's like, you know, other people in your life may be willing to put up with it, but I don't have to.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not getting paid for this. I don't have a quota.
Exactly.
So there's but it's pretty cool that when you called that again and said, hey,
yes,
can you try again?
Yes, absolutely.
And she drove out there.
And she flew out. On her own dime.
But then you guys drove back.
Flew out and we drove back.
Yeah.
But yes, you are exactly right about, because she used to say that to me all the time. If we talked and I'd been drinking, she'd go and hear click.
Yeah.
And then later on, I'd say, why'd you hang up or something? She'd say, because I don't talk to drunks.
Right.
That was her. But that's what she said. And you know what?
No.
She was absolutely right.
Yeah.
Nor should she.
Right.
You know?
It's really not. That's
right.
It's tough. It's tough to listen to somebody when they're intoxicated.
It is. Well, and we have to practice self-care as people in recovery. Yeah. And when people are when we've been drinking, we go round and round about the same thing. We're trying to prove points that don't make sense, all that kind of stuff. And really that's an energy sucker. Sometimes if I even give somebody the grace to listen a little bit, by the time I hang up, I'm exhausted. And that is not healthy for our recovery. It's not healthy for our ability to help others because we lose the positive, good energy that we could put into somebody who's ready and willing, wasting it on somebody who's not even close. And that doesn't do any good for anybody. No, not us, not the person who's drunk that called, and not the person that we could help who's willing.
Yeah, and it's unfair to the person that's willing.
Correct.
Essentially.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's it. So you moved out here, and then what was it like in your early days of sobriety?
Here? Well, first of all, it was completely different than what I had known in New England. And again, a lot of that onus is on me, that responsibility. But here, it just felt different to me. Again, there's a cultural difference, but the community that I found here seemed much more just willing and accepting and embracing of me and all my issues. I was kind of a hot mess when I first walked into the recovery community here. And I just found something very safe. This is a way to say it for me. And with the help of my sponsor and then just people here spoke differently about their experience, strength, and hope. They just told stories that I really could relate to. And maybe because I came here, it was the first time that I was really looking for the similarities and not the differences, because in my heart, I wanted to separate myself probably from New England and what was going on there. So it was probably harder for me to make the connections as much. Here, it was easier for me to see the similarities. But I also really heard a lot of my story. And I am originally from Colorado. I was in Boston 15 years of my life, but I'm originally from Colorado. So this is more my side of the country. And the culture that I grew up with and that I so dearly love, I found again here. And so the early days were just kind of me really grabbing hold and talking with people and calling women. And when we rolled into town, talk about a God thing as well, is we drove all the way across the country actually in a car that Donna had sold me. And we literally got all the way here, got to the airport, picked up her car that she had there. We were driving to her house and the belts in my car burst, like broke. So I lost like power steering and all that. So we were able to get it to a shop. And then I called the next day and I was able to get it fixed. But if that would have happened in like Sioux Falls, but we got all the way here and then they broke. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So it was like, and then, the job fell into my lap and there were just so many little God shots. Once I got here, I found a church right away that just helped me. But the community of recovery was what I really found a new willingness in my journey. And I know they say it's not people, places, and things. So I am always clear to say that it wasn't the geographical move from New England to here that ended up saving my life. It was the geographical move was in my priorities list, sobriety going from the bottom to the top.
Right. And becoming willing.
Right.
That was it. Just the willingness that you had. It didn't matter where you were at. I think you were willing.
Absolutely.
And that's what
100%.
happened.
It changed my perspective and made me realize out there, I saw a lot of people that fit their life and their sobriety into their life. And here I found a lot of people that basically fit their life into sobriety, their life into recovery. And that was something that I had been afraid to do there. And here, I really, it is a huge part of my life. And even in my professional life, I don't think there are too many professional colleagues in this town that don't know I'm in recovery. When I was in Leadership Rapid City through Elevate, if I can say that, ELI is what it was called there, Elevate Leadership Institute, we had to get up and introduce ourselves in the very beginning to the 24 people that were in there, 23 others. And when they said, tell us something unique about yourself. And when I introduced myself, I said, hi, my name's Kerry and I'm an alcoholic.
Sure, yeah.
And here I am in this like upper, some really good business leaders, up and coming business leaders, at least in the community. And you should have seen some of their mouths drop open. But when I explained why I said that, I said, because it has been the program that I work, the changes in myself and my character. And I said that have taught me about the leader I want to be. I'm a better leader for having gone through what I've gone through being an alcoholic.
Absolutely.
So I can't talk about leadership and be in this environment with you guys, learning more about it and sharing my experience without talking about what I've come through. And they were amazing with it through the whole experience.
No, that's pretty cool. And I think when you do that, you bring this thing into the light.
Yes.
And you strip a little power from it.
And change the perception of what addiction and therefore recovery is.
100%. Because I think that's probably what was shocking to them is 100%. They're like, really? She doesn't look like an alcoholic.
Right. Absolutely. In my business suit. And yep.
Right.
Yep.
And the same with Donna.
Yes.
Right? Like you said, you were drawn to her because she has this executive prowess and she has 100%. This presence and just this confidence that you're like, Jesus, lady's a boss. And it's true. But I think if you talk to Donna in her early days, it's the same thing. And one thing I think I struggled with was this imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
where I felt like I didn't deserve any success.
Yes.
And because I knew I was living a lie, there was parts of my life that I was keeping secrets and hiding things. And that was, if people only knew the real Seth, I wouldn't be. And
Right.
eventually they're going to find out I'm going to lose everything. So
Right.
I've got to really, I can't ever really take a compliment or anything.
Right. It's frightening.
Yeah. But now when you have no secrets or you're living an integrous and honest life, yeah, you do become a better leader. And also because you have humility
Absolutely.
now and you are mindful of things that you wouldn't normally be mindful of if you were continually living an alcoholic lifestyle. And so, how are you today, Kerry?
Oh my gosh. Amazing, honestly. Um, it almost sounds cliche to say that I'm amazing, but that has been the course of the last 3.5, coming up on 4 years of my life. There are times where I have little downturns or down days or whatnot. But, when I have people ask me sometimes, your situation really, when it got dangerous, like the the destructive and dangerous drinking, was kind of circumstantial. Don't you think you could possibly drink again someday? Or, people that just don't understand what true addiction and alcoholism is. And so I say, well, first of all, absolutely unequivocally no is the answer to that question. But the better question is, why would I want to? Why would I want to? Because I am so exponentially happier today than I ever was, I believe, when alcohol was a part of my life. And that is the truth. I look at it as I had happiness and stuff back then, but it was more like kind of a flatline existence, always looking for the next best thing with some happy times. Now it is a completely joyful existence with some down days. You know what I mean? And that's a huge difference. And I know without a shadow of a doubt, when I think back on my journey of drinking, that alcohol for me as an alcoholic and just the way it impacts my spirit, my emotions, my life, is that alcohol for me at any time, for any reason, in any amount, is a robber of my joy, period. And I'm not willing to give up the joy. I mean, it's too good. I mean, there are some days I'm so happy, it's almost embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Right.
I don't understand it. I mean, when I was still actively drinking, there were times I wanted to go to sleep just to be away from the world. And whether or not I woke up, I don't think I even cared. Now I want to go to sleep because I want to wake up the next day because I
Oh,
got
yeah.
stuff to do.
Sure.
It's weird, but awesome. So, I mean, who could ask for more? And it's such an honor because I have people that call. I just had a dear friend, actually the best friend of my ex-husband, who doesn't really have much of a relationship with him anymore, but I've known him and his wife since 1995, and we've maintained a good relationship, and he just called me because he needs to go to rehab,
Yeah.
and he said, "Kerry, I reached out to you because I knew you'd be honest and you've been through this before."
There you
I mean,
go.
what a gift
Man,
that we
yeah.
are able to
Yeah.
use, just like I said earlier, use our pain and use our experience to help others.
That's it. It is a gift.
It is a gift.
Yeah. I
It
had
is a
somebody
gift.
text me last night and it just is the best. I mean, it's no matter how busy of a day I'm having, I'll make time. You
Yes,
need a ride to Monument or whatever, detox. I'll drop.
absolutely.
I mean, it's just to be there, to be a part of something that is life
Mhm.
changing.
Life-changing.
Oh,
And the things you share, Seth, like you said earlier, the things we are able to share, I mean, but you said earlier, something to the effect of that we learn to live life on life's terms in the journey that we take, in the programs that we work. And that is so true. And what I've learned is even in the areas of my life where I still deal like with difficult people. I was at a conference, a women's conference with Donna a couple weekends ago, and this woman said something that really made me think in a way that it just put it into perspective for me. And that is that she said, "He with the most tools has the most responsibility." And I thought, wow, that is so important. And I wanted to be careful in my humility of that statement and not thinking, well, that person doesn't have any tools. Because the truth is, I don't know that. But what I do know is that I do. I know that I have them. And so if I can, in this situation, choose to act in a way that will not make the situation worse, then I need to do that
Right.
because I have the tools to do that. And sometimes I think if somebody is in just a really awful place or whatnot, I'll think maybe the dirtier their side of the street, if you will, the cleaner mine needs to be. And I can show up with those tools and I can work on what I can work on, what I have control of. Serenity prayer, right? Those types of things just amaze me. And some of the other gifts that I wanted to share that I've learned like in my later days of sobriety, this last year, let's say, the third year, I've learned so much. The one thing I've really learned is that, I don't believe necessarily God just comes in and just poof, removes it. Because in my mind, God does the impossible, but we need to do the possible, right? And so we count on him for guidance in how to act. I listen for him in the midst of my conduct, right? We're still going to feel the way we feel sometimes. And when I was actively drinking, I based a lot of my decisions and reactions on how I felt all the time, right? And now with this program, I can make decisions and take actions in spite of how I feel because I pause. God is in the pause. And pausing is not my MO. I'm an energetic one and I go, and I have since I was probably able to walk. But this has taught me to take the time to pause and to listen. Is what I want to do right now in my kind of reactive state based on emotions the right thing to do? And usually the answer will come and it's not, or do it differently or something that is more kind, more necessary, more. You always ask myself those questions like, is it kind? Is it necessary? Is those types of things. And so when I listen for him in the midst of my conduct and I'm able to pause, my feelings may be there, but my response to things is much different. And that is a gift, a complete gift. I mean, sometimes it blows my mind that I even do that.
Yeah.
How amazing. And I alluded earlier to that God had equipped me well for this. And I've heard people say many times, "Oh, I wish I would have learned this years ago." And I'm guilty of saying that early on too. But I don't really feel that way anymore because like I said, all of the pain and stuff that I had gone through, the learning equipped me better for what I'm able to do in my recovery now based on what I went through. And I feel like the gal at that conference last weekend also said something to the effect of, we hold regret and it can be painful or damaging because we hold it until we are able to use it to help somebody else or to help ourselves through something that's very similar. And when she said that, I thought, wow, because then for me, that would change the label of it, right? And instead of thinking of it as something I need to regret now, it's got purpose. How can I regret purpose? So I choose to use it as something purposeful in my life. Then maybe I'm not going to see it as something I need to regret anymore.
No, you're
It's
adding
something I can be
value.
grateful for.
Yeah, you add value to something that you think is something and not a value.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great way to say it. Exactly.
And regret really has no place in our life anymore. That guilt, shame, and remorse just doesn't really help us.
Absolutely.
We need to use it as propellant. And whenever I'm feeling like I'm feeling sorry for myself, just recognize that. What value does this bring? It's just,
Right.
I'll sit here and just think about how much I've messed up.
Yeah, that's right.
But, you go from making a mess to becoming a messenger, right? And
Absolutely.
that's where the value is. And that's what keeps me going. And I know when somebody reaches out or texts me or whatever, thank God for those experiences and how many times I can draw off of. Because instead of focusing, if somebody's telling me what they've done wrong or their mistakes, instead of focusing on theirs, I'm happy to tell you what I did. Here's how I messed up.
And share it.
Yeah,
100%.
you think what you did was bad or whatever.
Listen to this.
Yeah, even financial decisions. There's so many times where I'm like, man, I'd have so much more money right now if I figure this out sooner.
Another thing I'm thinking of is that same sponsee I was speaking with last night. She's on step 3. And we were talking about what I've learned about it. And I actually was saying to her, it did dawn on me one day that if I've done a thorough step 3, given my will and my life over to the power of God as I understand him, then how can I continue to regret everything that's happened? Because that would have been his will too, right?
Sure, yeah.
So I need to look at that for what it is. And that was his plan, maybe just to get me to right where I am today. And that's got to be okay. When it comes to, I think that step 3 for me is the foundation of my recovery. Because every day I go back and say, here I am again today. Take it. I don't need it. I want you to keep flying the plane. I have shared before. I don't know if you've heard me say that. I had an epiphany one day. I saw something on the all-knowing Facebook that said an optimist invented the airplane and a pessimist invented the parachute. And although I laughed because it was kind of funny, I thought, wait a minute. It was an epiphany for me because I thought that explains my faith and what had happened to my faith when I got upset with God, when my life fell apart and I blamed him. It was more like, well, just throw me a parachute then. I just had such a pessimistic faith. But in the past, I had been letting him fly the plane, or so I thought. And then this program taught me that I needed to bring back that optimism. If I thought he was strong enough and powerful enough to screw up my life in my anger, well, certainly he'd have the power to fix it, right? I obviously still believe if I was mad at him. So that had something to do with that night of the 3 things happening in succession. I think my faith did change that night, but it wasn't until I saw that I realized how that had happened and that I had gone back to saying, okay, I believe that we got the airplane in flight again, Lord. You take the wheel, because if I continue to fly it, then I'm going to need the parachute. You know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah. And that's probably why we feel like the parachute's more important than the plane.
Right.
Because we're so used to being the ones to fly it. Yeah. I think for me, anytime I hit a little turbulence, I'd say, hey, time to jump.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now I'm learning that turbulence is okay. I can ride this out. I don't need to jump out every time things get difficult.
That's right.
In a way, my parachute was in the form of alcohol or
that's right,
whatever substance. And now I'm learning, man, I can go to some pretty incredible destinations if I quit jumping out of this stupid plane every time I get a little scared or stop
that's
trusting.
A good way to say it.
And one thing I heard early on in sobriety was the difference between faith and trust is, if you're in the audience at a circus and you're watching a trapeze artist push a wheelbarrow across the tightrope, right? Like you have trust that they're going to be able to do that, right? But having faith is getting in the wheelbarrow.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's what I always think is, am I in the wheelbarrow or am I watching it? And that's a difference, really. It's like you're pretty vulnerable if you're up there.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
That's something I try to apply. But man, I sure appreciate you hanging out, Kerry.
Well, thank you.
Thank
you for having me. It's really been fun, and what an honor it is always to be able to share parts of our story and experience strength and hope.
Oh yeah.
To me, it's one of the highest honors I have today, and I'm just always grateful when I'm asked. So thank you.
That's it. Yeah. Well, I'm proud of you. I'm grateful for you, and I enjoy talking to you. You're definitely, you got that Boston attitude, I feel like, right? But yeah, you're awesome. Thank you, Kerry.
Well, thanks, Seth. I appreciate it.
You bet.